when Cameron was in Egypt's land. Let my Cameron go.
Hey folks, it's Nathan. So I'm not in my usual office. You can tell by the beautiful surroundings that I'm inside my messy home instead of inside my messy garage. So, why? No, I'm not smoking in here. That means death. But what I did a few weeks ago, now I think, was I roasted some coffee. I ended up drinking that coffee and it turned out pretty well. But I wanted to show you guys what's called a cupping, which I have done once. So don't take what I'm doing here as gospel if you decide to get into it and become a coffee snob like some other folks. But this is how they taste it in the professional world, and so that bug. And because I'm trying to get together a blend that I can roast myself, I figure it's good to know the flavors and figure out what I want to put into it, whether I would just want to go just straight Costa Rican or Honduran or whatever, or blend some together and try and get some other things. So you can get coffee in like over 80 different countries, whatever. I found, I think, through my previous attempt at roasting that you guys saw, I prefer to have that dark roast, or not dark, but the medium to medium dark roast. But what you need, a couple glasses of clean water, a couple spoons. Mine are not official cupping spoons, but that's okay. A kettle of hot water, and then some vessels for your coffee. Now, in each of these, I've got my coffee grounds, just to prove it to you. Right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill each of these with water and let it bloom. So here I've got the El Salvador coffee, here's the Honduran, and here's the Costa Rican that I've got that I put into a nice roast and blend. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill up the coffee to about where I think it should go with the water, and then I'm just going to let it go. And there's no filter with this, and it's a pretty coarse grind, or a lot more coarse than I usually grind my coffee. And so, there we go. So now I set my timer for 4 minutes, I think. There we go. 4 minutes. And I just let this coffee go. And right now, boy, it's smelling pretty tasty. So, we are just getting under a minute here. And so the coffee here is really kind of forming a crust, really at the top. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stir it, I think the guy said 3 times. And that's going to sink the grounds, most of them, to the bottom. And then I'm going to spoon out the top of them. And then at that point, then I'm able to go in and taste the coffee and do it at different temperatures. So right now, it's a piping hot blend, or brew, and I'm not going to want to sit there and sip coffee that I brought up to a boiling temperature. I'm going to want to let that cool down, but as it cools, there we go, it'll change flavor. So, alright. that off. Alright, so that's changed how it looks dramatically. Most of those grounds have sunk to the bottom. And so now I'm going to come in here and kind of coax more of the grounds in there. And you can see we got a pretty decent group of them. Because let's face it, we really don't want coffee grounds. But we're only wanting to get rid of those ones that are sitting up at the top of the coffee now, because most of it again has gone to the bottom. Alright, so now you got a nice look of what water probably looked like when you drank at it from before the time they started doing treatments. So now we wait, and the rule of thumb is just to kind of wait about 10 minutes so that the coffee can naturally cool down. This also allows for any other grains of coffee grinds to settle down to the bottom, and then you're ready for tasting. So I'm going to pause this and we'll be ready to go here in a few. Alright, so let it cool down. Got some fresh water and fresh spoons, so now I can taste this supposedly unadulterated with anything. So, actually no, I didn't. Hold please. Now I'm ready. My own little palate cleansing water. Kind of need that. It's actual. Do that. Okay. So this might be kind of coffee geeky nerdy to some people, whatever. But again, if you're gonna sit there and make your own coffee, then why not? Why not get it to something that you want to do? You know. Then again, if you're like a lot of people and you're fine with whatever comes in the bag, then great. I find that actually getting the beans and roasting them myself is actually cheaper than I think even Folgers, and some of those other store brands. So I'm game for that. Alright, so spoon. So at whatever temperature this is now, I'm going to bring El Salvador forward. And you just want a little bit in the spoon, because all you're doing is trying to get a taste. And then you bring it up and you slurp, because getting oxygen in also helps break out the flavors and cool it down as well. And so then you can kind of say, okay, well, bitter, little bit of cocoa, so that's that one. So, and again, what's going to be interesting is when I taste this again after it's cooled down even more, how much is that going to change? Is that bitterness going to drop into something else to where it gets to a temperature range where I'm used to drinking? Is that a flavor component then that I want to have as part of my coffee? So now this one is Honduran. Also bitter, more bitter than the El Salvador. There's not really a cocoa presence with it. Yeah, that's interesting. But mostly just bitter. And I guess the strength that these are brewed at is more espresso type strength. So that's the golden ratio according to the elites. Alright, so here we go with the Costa Rican. Okay, so that one, probably the least bitter. Most complex. Yeah, probably a little bit of chocolate on that. But there's a slight sweet. And like official people like have like taste wheels. Like, I mean, just like anything brewing, they have that same thing for hops, and they have the same thing for tobacco too. So yeah, so that's kind of the process. You just go through. See, now the bitterness on that one's down. So you take notes as you go. If you can taste differences, and or if the differences remain the same. Just to see how the coffee reacts. And so like some of these ones that are really bitter, you can actually sit there and say, well, this blend had a sweet or kind of a fruity kind of thing. And maybe that would work well in counteracting the bitterness with the Honduran, so in this case. But it lets you really kind of break it down and see where you want to go with this. So, in any case, that Costa Rican's good. I'm going to probably be leaning more on the Costa Rican style blend. But yeah, so in that, I've got another, 5 bags of roast to try. So I mean it's a fun process, and I'm looking forward to getting something together and really blending it to make it my own. And then when I order these beans again, then I can say I want this much of this one, this much of this one. That's it. Put put them all together into a bag, and then roast them as I need it. It'll be good fun. So, anyway, that's coffee tasting for you. And most of you would just prefer to have it in one of these and just throw it down the gullet. And there is nothing wrong with that. So, in any case, again, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. And we'll see you later. So, count your blessings. Be thankful for them. When all that's said and done, grace and peace to you. See ya.